session is on completing the summer action plan, which, as you guys know, that's due the end of February. So hopefully you've already been doing some planning and working on that. Before we actually dive in, I want you guys to think about these questions as we go through this. Feel free to put some responses in the chat. What makes a summer program meaningful? And how can you guys as site coordinators and directors and staff help balance the academic recovery with engagement, joy, and motivation during your summer programming? So just as we go through that, and even after today, as you are planning your summer program, think about those questions and let those kind of drive some of your planning. So research suggests, and this has been a thing for as far back as I can remember, honestly. That summer slide statistics confirm learning loss over summer is a pretty big deal, as much as 2 months in reading and nearly 3 months in math. Students lose that much just over their summer break. So by having these programs, you are able to offer individualized and targeted instruction, focusing on your target population, focus on key academic areas depending on your student population, flexibility, having more student-centered type scheduling and not just scheduling, but the classes that you're offering, especially like for your enrichment. A lot of times we have more time in the summer, so we can do a little more extensive enrichment classes, a little more fun, a little more learning. So learning objectives, by the end of today or the end of this hour, you will understand how to correctly complete the required summer action plan, as well as the requirements for your target population that your grant is serving. For those of you that are at elementary schools, whether it's a K-5, K through 8, you are required for your elementary grades to have 4 consecutive weeks, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. Again, this has to be consecutive weeks. This should be a minimum of 120 hours when you finish your summer program. During that time, each day you should have 2.5 hours dedicated to academic support for reading and math. So we split that down the middle, 1 hour and 15 minutes of reading and 1 hour and 15 minutes of math. Generally, we recommend that you do the intervention, remediation type stuff, the reading and math, in the morning hours, just because students, they're not tired yet. So you want to make sure you get that stuff in, and maybe do your enrichment stuff after lunch for your summer. You must provide this program for all the students served by the grant. What we mean by that is if your grant was written for K through 5, you cannot serve only 4th and 5th for summer, or only K through 3 for summer. You have to make it available to all grade levels served by the grant. You should have a pre and post test for both math and reading, so you can measure the growth of what kind of a difference your program has made. And you've got to enter your summer data by the deadline. And correct me if I'm wrong, put it in the chat if you guys know a little better than me. It's been a while since I've been since I have been in the district. So, and I don't necessarily, work in Transact all the time. But I do believe when you come back in August is when you generally certify your summer data. I don't recommend waiting till August to enter it. I would go on and be doing that as your summer goes. But as far as certifying it and making sure everything, got all your T's crossed and I's dotted, you'll do that in August. Field trips are optional. They are not a requirement. So keep that in mind. If you don't have money to do a field trip, that's okay. Again, it's not a requirement. If you do have the funding, you are allowed to do one field trip per week. Transportation cannot be included with your programming hours. So just like during the school year, you have 2 hours after school. Dismissal cannot begin until that full 2 hours. And same goes with summer. If you are required to do your 6 hours a day, you can't start loading buses at the 5.5 hour mark. So just know that, when you're doing your planning, when you're doing your scheduling and hiring your teachers and your staff, communicating your hours with your parents, dismissal begins after the 6 hours of instruction. Middle and high requirements, you are required a minimum of 40 hours. Again, these must be consecutive weeks, 2 consecutive weeks. You can do either 4 hours a day for 5 days a week, or you can do 5 hours a day for 4 days a week. Now that's entirely up to you, but just be sure you specify that on your summer action plan. Again, this summer programming must be provided to all grade levels. So whatever is on the front page of your grant application, your approved grant, it should say, 6 through 8, 7th and 8th, 9 through 12, whatever is on there, that's who you have to provide summer programming to. Enter summer data by the KN deadline. KN Transact, it's still KN, but they added that new term a couple of years ago, and old habits are hard to break, so most of the time I still call it KN. Again, make sure you get that stuff in by the deadline, and certification is in August. It looks like Hillary has told me, yes, I'm still correct on that. It had been a while for me. Again, field trips are optional, but just like with elementaries, you are allowed 1 field trip per week. Same thing with the transportation. You've got to get in your hours that day, whether it be the 4 hours a day or the 5 hours a day. Dismissal can't begin until those hours are complete. So on your summer action plan, and we will look at the form here shortly, you will see a place where you must list grant performance goals and indicators. When we ask you to do that, we need you guys to write them out completely, as well as the indicators, because everybody's is different. So choose the ones that you are going to target for summer. Make sure those are listed in their entirety. And then you wanted to explain to us what activities, what classes, what parent sessions, whatever it may be that you're planning for summer, whether, maybe you've got your co-applicant coming in doing some activities, maybe once a week or whatever. Give us a detailed description of those activities and classes that are going to support that specific goal and indicator. So I put some just examples down here. This indicator, this goal and indicator is talking about math, reading, and science. Kind of focused here on the indicator that was specific about reading. So we talk about our reading interventions with a certified teacher, 10 minutes of choral reading in small group with a mentor daily. one parent engagement session focusing on reading with your child. You are required to have one parent engagement session during your summer program, and this is not included with the 4 that you're required to do during the school year. So this is completely separate from that. It's just for summer. Let's see, other requirements. So, and you will see when we get to the form, we ask for all of this stuff. You are prompted for each one of these things. You need to have assessments, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, a pre-assessment and a post-assessment to, just measure what have my students done this school year, or I'm sorry, this summer, not school year. Where were they when they came in at the beginning of June, and what kind of difference did we make during that 2 weeks or that 4 weeks? Co-applicant and partner involvement. There's a section where you will explain to us what each partner is going to do. So you will need to list your partner or the co-applicant, preferably not the representative names. If your co-applicant is the extension office, be sure you put extension office, not Sally Jones, because we may not know who Sally Jones works for. And what their involvement's going to be, whether it is they are providing supplies, providing a volunteer, a variety of different things. Maybe they're coming out and doing a STEM class with your students once a week. Maybe your co-applicant is way more involved in that than that. Maybe they're doing something every day in enrichment for a week, or maybe the whole summer. It just depends on what you've got going on. Just be sure you give us a nice description of their involvement. Again, you have to have one family engagement session during summer. So you'll explain to us what that plan is. You should have a theme. This could be an overarching theme for the entire summer, or you may have a general theme for the month, but then maybe 4 little themes for the week. Each week focusing on a different aspect. You will also need to include a daily schedule, and notice the word detailed. So we're going to use these schedules, for one thing, to make sure you're meeting requirements. But if your site gets selected to have a summer visit, a summer observation, then we want to have our schedule so that we know what days you may have a field trip, so we don't show up on that day. And once we get there, we need to know, what's going on, so we can get ourselves to the right locations to observe, a variety of the classes and clubs that you're offering that day. Also, you will include a budget. In your grant application, there should have been included in that budget, you should have had stuff budgeted for specifically for summer programming. So you might want to look there. Also, of course, you want to make sure you're looking at your latest quarterly, looking at that Munis report and making sure you're staying within your budget. It's when you're planning this but you will include, there's a budget page, you will include specifically what you're spending for this summer. All right. We're going to look at the summer action plan document. We'll go through it. We'll walk through that. Again, add any questions you have in the chat, and then we will address those at the end. Now, let's see if my link works. Hopefully this is a smooth transition. All right, so this is our website, and we have a lot of resources listed on here. tells a little bit about what the program is. And if you scroll down over here on the right-hand side, you'll see program forms. We update these periodically, so ever so often you'll want to go in here and download the new forms. All right, so right here's the summer action plan. If you click on that, it's going to open the file, and then you will want to save it before you start working on it. So as you can see, there's a little reminder up here, field trips, purchase request, and calendar. It's got the due date. It's due February 27th, 2026. Hard to believe we're already in 2026. If you don't know who your KDE consultant is, here is we've got our names with the regions we cover. If you don't know what region you are, you might want to look at our map. I think we've sent that map out before. On the first page, just like any of our documents that you'll send in, we have a lot of identifiable information. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. You have grant cycle, grant type. So you need to know what cycle you are, whether you're a cycle 20, 22, whatever it is, you'll put that in there. Grant type, if you're new or if you're a continuation. Fiscal agent, co-applicant, all of that information can be found on the front page of your approved grant application. And if you, for some reason, don't have a copy of your grant, please reach out to your KDE consultant and make sure you get one. You need to list the school that is served and the physical address, what district, your site coordinator, program director. Sometimes, you know, depending on the site, that may be the same person. We want your email or whatever so we know who to contact if we have questions. In the second column, you'll see total number of students served last summer. So you can get that information out of the Transact system. Just make sure you change your credentials and you go back to summer 2025 and see how many students attended your program just for the summer. That's what we're looking for there. Now the next one there on the list, total number of students to be served and grade levels, that is how many students you plan to serve this year. So, you know, you can only serve as many students as money allows and that you have the staffing to do so. So that's part of the planning process. So maybe it's 50 kids that you're targeting for summer, and that's what you'll put in there, 50. And then of course, make sure you've got your ratio, student to teacher, staff to teacher ratio figured out. You're staying within your 15:1. Total number of weeks, days, hours. What are your daily operating hours? Maybe that's 8 to 3. How many program staff do you have total? And then we ask you to break it down and tell us how many certified teachers specifically you have each week. This is to ensure that you are meeting your 16 certified hours a week. And nothing changes from school year to summer. You still have to meet that 16 hours. So just keep that in mind while you're planning. And then last but not least, your staff to student ratio there. Criteria for participation, those, you know, check those that apply. This is going to be based a lot on the target population that is named in your grant. So be sure you've identified that. Content areas to be addressed. You're not necessarily going to hit all of these. Maybe you will, but you definitely should have reading and math checked. And then based on what enrichment activities you have planned for the summer will determine what else you check there. If you scroll down to the second page, you will select what type of program you are. And again, we have your requirements, the minimum requirements listed. How will summer programs support each of the performance goals and performance indicators from the current grant application? The grant must list performance goals and indicators and describe the activities that will support each one. So I think we had a question in the chat about how many goals and indicators were required to focus on. The way this is stated, it looks like all of them. It says support each. So I hope that answers that question. And I know some of you have more indicators than others. You know, that's just how the district wrote the grant. So, and two, you might want to, you know, if you have like 6 indicators under each goal, reach out to your KDE consultant. You might not need to focus on all 6 indicators under each goal, because with all the goals and that many indicators, that may be a little much to focus on just for those weeks in the summer. How will each activity be assessed? So this is where you need to put what type of pre and post assessment you're going to use. This may be, just throwing out some ideas here, it may be iReady, it may be Lexia. You know, every district's different as to what they have access to, but you do need a pre and post test to measure reading and math improvement, or just, you know, even if there's not improvement, making sure that we prevent that summer slide and the students are holding steady. Which meals will be provided by the USDA snack program? Generally, this should be breakfast and lunch. So be sure you don't wait till last minute to talk to your cafeteria staff. They need time to plan this. They need to know what your schedule is, and things of that nature. So don't forget about that. Don't leave that to the last second. List your summer partners and describe the services they will provide. So everyone should have a co-applicant, and then of course your partners. All of them should have a co-applicant or partner agreement in the back of your grant. You should be able to find that, see what they said they would do. Hopefully you have been communicating with them already throughout this school year so far. And maybe already have talked to them about summer. If you haven't, you need to make sure you're doing that sooner rather than later, so you can get a plan together as to what their involvement will be. So you'll just click there in the text box, tell us who the partner is or the co-applicant and what they plan to provide. What activity will be provided for families? So you have a requirement to do one activity. You can do more, but you must have at least one for the summer. Here is where we ask for your weekly theme. Again, make sure, you know, just like with your enrichment classes, make sure everything is age appropriate. And you will attach a calendar that includes your daily schedule, monthly events, or field trips. This is where you get to your budget section. Personnel fringe. This probably don't look too foreign to you because it looks a whole lot. We're asking for the exact same things like you see on your quarterly reimbursement request. So what I will say here is detail. Don't be too vague, and you should be fine. If there are anything that, for instance, let's say the district is going to cover a field trip. So that would be like in kind. So you can put that on there and just state that the district's going to cover this cost, how much it is, and you know that's your in kind cost. So you won't include that in your total summer budget. Down here on your total, you just want what is being paid for out of the 21st Century Grant. All right, so that's the end of that. Now, once you get this completed, again, don't forget to include a daily schedule, and you want to, tell us what's going on from this hour to that hour. So, and a location, so that if we come out for observation, we know that Miss Jones is doing science experiments in room, I don't know, 504. So we know where to find them if we want to go in and observe. So I think when we send this out, we're going to have an example summer action plan. And honestly, that may be, let me look. Let's see if it's in the examples. I want to say it is, but memory sometimes doesn't serve me well. So if you go down here, we got 21st century example forms. And so you can open this zip file. I'm not sure if the summer action plan's in there or not. Yes, there it is. So I would recommend downloading the summer action plan example. And this would kind of give you an idea of just how much detail you need to provide. And again, please keep in mind, this is an example. So like up here, all the goals are not listed. It was just to kind of give you an example of how to list them out and give us the activities that's going to support each one. And let's see, I was going to scroll down here. There's just, an idea of how to possibly do your theme, what your daily schedule should look like, how detailed that should be. Again, make note of like a special guest coming to speak or field trips. That way we kind of know, what day might be better for us to show up for a observation. On your budget, kind of gives you an idea of how much detail there. And you can see, let's see, I wanted to show you, okay. Down here, we made note if the district, was paying anything, how much was in kind, for field trips in kind by the district. So, if you have a situation like that, just make note of it so we kind of can follow along there and know what's going on. And I broke it down right here. This is the total we're spending. This is being paid out of the 21st century grant, and this is in kind by the district. Now, you may not be fortunate enough to have any in kind, I'm not sure. But if you do, you can add it in there and just make note so we know. Okay, so let me look at our questions here. Are we submitting as one PDF or attachments on the email to our KDE consultant? I would put it as one PDF. That way, everything's together. For instance, on this example, you can see how the schedule is embedded. That don't have to necessarily be that way. It could be a separate document, but you would need to scan it in as one PDF. And you're going to have things, if you're going on field trips, you've got to have a field trip request. So that's going to be a separate document. If there's any supplies that you need to purchase for summer, I'm sorry for the scrolling. Let me go back down here to budget. Down here, like under supplies. So supplies for each themed week. And you notice I've got see attached purchase request. So yeah, you would need to have, whether it be a purchase request or if you need to do a technology request. We don't want all those as separate documents. It's just a little too much to keep up with. So get everything together and scan it into one PDF when you send it to your KDE consultant. Your request, the plan, the actual plan, and of course, your schedule. Can we have more than 1 to 15 ratio if we have one adult and one high school student mentor? Yes, you can. And I think in the RFA, depending on which grant, we had some verbiage on, what that could look like. If you have a specific question, I would email my KDE consultant as far as that ratio. But yes, as long as you have the one adult and a high school student, you can have more than 1 to 15. But keep in mind, those high school students cannot be left alone with students. So, if you're in a situation where maybe you've got 20 students and 10 of them are doing small group or, working with the teacher, and maybe the other 10 are on computers doing their iReady or something, their 20 minutes or 30 minutes of iReady for the day. The high school student can be kind of managing behavior there, keeping them on task, but they cannot be left alone with them. They would have to be, in the same room with the teacher. So just, make sure you make note of that.